Welcome to this deep dive, and today we're going way beyond just the headlines and the glitter to understand the real Paris Hilton.
Okay.
Our source today is a really in-depth interview that she did on the Jay Shetty podcast while she was promoting her new memoir,
Okay.
Paris. The memoir, you know her as the heiress and the reality TV star
Right.
and the pop culture icon, but we're going to look at the person behind the persona today.
Absolutely. And you know what's so fascinating is that for years, the media crafted a narrative around Paris, and she never really got to say anything.
Yeah.
And now finally, she's taking control and telling her own story. And it's really a story about resilience and reclaiming your narrative and, the unexpected power of vulnerability.
It is. It's not just about a celebrity revealing secrets. It's about a human being overcoming some pretty intense challenges.
Right.
And we're going to learn about how Paris survived these traumatic experiences,
Yes.
especially at those troubled teen schools like Provo Canyon School, Cascade, and Ascent. And she actually used a technique that you can use in your own life by creating a future self in her mind.
It's almost like she willed her escape into being,
Yeah.
and in a way, she turned what could be seen as a simple coping mechanism
Yeah.
into a success strategy, really. And later on, she even applied that same focus and drive to the business world,
Yeah.
drawing a direct line from her ADHD to her, entrepreneurial achievements.
It's incredible how she reframed something that was often seen as a weakness into a strength.
Right.
But before we dive into her rise to success, let's rewind a little bit to her childhood.
Okay.
Paris often talks about her grandmother and the values that she instilled in her,
Yeah.
especially kindness and staying true to herself.
And there's this piece of advice that her grandmother gave her that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
Always remain the same sweet, down-to-earth girl and never let that get to your head. And it's almost heartbreaking to think about because Paris did try to hold on to that. But her experiences, particularly at those troubled teen schools, really challenged that inherent sweetness.
It is. And, it's chilling how she describes being taken from her own bed in the middle of the night,
Wow.
handcuffed and flown across the country. And her parents were actually tricked by the school's advertising
Oh, wow.
into believing that this was a normal boarding school.
Goodness.
They were trying to help,
Yeah.
but they were misled by a system designed to profit off of vulnerable families.
And, it's important to remember this isn't an isolated incident.
Right.
This troubled teen industry is a multi-billion-dollar business.
Yeah.
And sadly, many of these programs have a history of abuse.
They do, and Paris's experiences are particularly disturbing.
Yeah.
She talked about a teacher that she refers to as Mr. Abercrombie, who groomed and manipulated her when she was only 14.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how adults in positions of authority can exploit young people's vulnerability and their desire to be liked.
It's true. And this type of abuse can have deep, lasting scars and make it difficult to trust others and form healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And for Paris, it wasn't an isolated incident. She was also drugged and assaulted at 15.
It's incredibly brave of her to share these experiences, and it really highlights the importance of shifting the shame from the victim to the perpetrator.
Absolutely.
Paris is very vocal about this and urges other survivors to speak out and reclaim their power.
She makes a critical point that for healing to happen, that shame needs to be placed where it belongs on the abusers.
Now imagine carrying the weight of these experiences while simultaneously being thrust into the spotlight.
Right.
That's exactly what happened to Paris. The media grabbed hold of her story, and instead of offering compassion, they twisted it into something salacious.
They created this image of her as being reckless and promiscuous, which she has said was far from the truth.
Right.
It really demonstrates how the media can exploit young women and perpetuate these harmful stereotypes.
It's no wonder she felt like she was trapped in a persona she didn't create. Think about the infamous sex tape. It was something that was stolen from her.
Right.
A violation of her privacy that was then splashed across the tabloids.
It's a stark reminder of the importance of consent and control over your own image, especially in a world where everything is so easily captured and shared.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to note that Paris eventually used humor to reclaim some of that power, even poking fun at the situation on Saturday Night Live.
It's almost like she took that narrative back by refusing to be defined by it.
Exactly. She found a way to laugh at the absurdity of it all, which in itself is a powerful act of defiance.
And it wasn't just the media she had to navigate. Even within her own social circles, there were challenges.
Right.
There were people who wanted to be her friend for all the wrong reasons, people who saw her as a stepping stone or a source of gossip.
And that's where her, let's call it her unique approach to vetting friendships comes in.
Yeah.
Remember that story about the fake rumors?
Mm-hmm.
She deliberately planted false information to see who would betray her trust.
It's a pretty bold move.
It is.
But it speaks to her need to weed out the opportunists and find genuine connections.
Right.
And it worked.
It did.
She was able to build a tight-knit circle of friends who proved their loyalty time and time again, but it took time for her to find that kind of deep, unconditional love in a romantic relationship.
Right. She dated a lot of people who were attracted to the Paris Hilton persona.
Yeah.
The fame, the fortune.
The brand.
But then came Carter, and he was different.
He saw the real Paris, the vulnerable woman beneath the carefully crafted image.
And he valued those qualities, kindness, loyalty, a genuine heart above all else.
And perhaps most importantly, he supported her as she began to confront the trauma of her past.
That kind of unwavering support is crucial for anyone on a healing journey. He helped her create a safe space where she could finally start to process those painful memories and begin to heal.
And it's with this newfound strength that Paris started to use her platform to speak out against the very system that had caused her so much pain.
She's been a powerful advocate for exposing the abuse within the troubled teen industry.
It's almost like her pain is fueling her purpose.
She's not just talking about change, she's actually working to change laws and protect other children from enduring what she went through.
And she's facing some serious opposition.
She is.
That industry lobby is powerful, but Paris is not backing down.
It's inspiring to see her channel that anger and hurt into something positive. And by giving a voice to other survivors, she's also giving a voice to her own inner child, the one who was silenced for so long.
And speaking of finding her voice, we can't forget about her new role as a mother.
It's a beautiful full-circle moment. She chose to keep her pregnancy private for a while, shielding herself and her son from the relentless public eye. It's like she's finally reclaiming the privacy that was denied to her for so long.
And it's fascinating to hear how her own experiences have shaped her approach to parenting.
She's determined to create that safe and loving environment that she never had.
So we've covered a lot of ground already, from her childhood to her experiences with the trauma and the media, to her journey toward healing and advocacy. But there's still so much more to unpack. What stands out to you so far?
I'm struck by the sheer resilience that she has shown throughout her life.
It's true.
It makes you wonder, how did she manage to hold on to her sense of self-worth despite all the negativity and the trauma?
Right. It's a testament to the strength of the human spirit, and it begs the question, can someone truly reclaim their narrative after it's been hijacked by others?
That's what we're going to explore as we continue this deep dive. We'll delve into her coping mechanisms, her entrepreneurial spirit, and her evolving definition of success.
Stay tuned, because there's a lot more to discover about the real Paris Hilton.
You know, it's remarkable how Paris managed to not just survive those years, but actually thrive.
Yeah.
She talks about creating this future world in her mind, a place where she could escape the pain and imagine this brighter future for herself. It's actually a technique that anyone can use.
You mean like visualization?
Exactly. Think about it this way.
Right.
You can use the power of your mind to create a mental picture of yourself achieving a goal.
Okay.
Whether it's acing a presentation or running a marathon or simply just having a good day.
Right.
Paris used this technique to cope with the trauma, but you can use it to achieve your dreams. It's really about harnessing the power of positive thinking and focusing on what you want to create.
So it's like planting a seed in your mind.
Yes.
And then nurturing it until it blossoms.
Absolutely.
And speaking of blossoming, Paris didn't just visualize her escape. She also tapped into a unique aspect of herself.
Right.
That many might consider a challenge. Her ADHD.
Uh-huh.
She actually credits it as a superpower that fuels her success in business.
It's fascinating how what was once seen as a weakness can be reframed as a strength.
Right.
And in Paris's case, her ADHD contributes to her impulsiveness, her willingness to take risks, and her ability to think outside the box.
Yeah.
It's like her mind is constantly buzzing with ideas, and she's not afraid to chase them. She even mentions that her doctor compared her brain to a Ferrari with bicycle brakes.
That's a pretty vivid analogy.
It is.
But it makes sense. She's known for being a multitasker, a trendsetter, a pioneer in so many fields.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't just visualization and embracing her ADHD that got her through those dark times. It was also about finding genuine human connection.
Yes.
Remember how she tested people's loyalty by planting fake rumors?
Right. That strategy definitely raised some eyebrows, but it also reveals a deep longing for authenticity.
Yeah.
And a need to filter out the people who weren't truly there for her.
Right.
It speaks to the power of intuition and the importance of trusting your gut when it comes to relationships.
It's like she created her own litmus test for loyalty.
Yeah,
And in a world where fame and fortune can attract a lot of insincere attention,
right.
it's understandable why she felt the need to create that kind of filter.
Yes.
But even with her close circle of trusted friends, she still had to deal with the relentless scrutiny of the media.
The media's obsession with Paris was, and to some extent still is, relentless.
Yeah.
They hounded her. They fabricated stories,
Right.
and they constantly tried to define her narrative.
It makes you wonder how she didn't completely crumble under that pressure.
I know.
Imagine walking into a room knowing that people already have these preconceived notions about you based on headlines and gossip.
Right. It speaks volumes about her inner strength and resilience.
Yes.
She refused to let the media dictate her story or control her emotions. And what's interesting is that she often used humor to deflect that negativity.
Okay.
She talks about how the media painted her as this wild party girl, but in reality, she was actually quite innocent and even a bit shy. She even jokes about being labeled a sex symbol when she was actually terrified of intimacy.
It's a good reminder that the public persona that we see often masks a much more complex and nuanced human being.
Absolutely. We should all be wary of judging others based on sound bites and headlines.
Right.
There's always more to the story, more to the person than what we see on the surface.
And in Paris' case, that complexity makes her story even more relatable.
It does.
We all wear masks to some extent.
Right.
We all have hidden truths and vulnerabilities.
Right.
And Paris challenges us to go beyond those surface-level judgments and see each other for who we truly are.
It's a call for more empathy and understanding.
Which is something we could all benefit from.
For sure.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about healing.
Okay.
Paris admits that she spent years running from her trauma, burying herself in work and distractions to avoid confronting those painful memories.
It's a common coping mechanism.
It is.
But as she discovered, those buried emotions eventually demand to be heard.
It takes a tremendous amount of courage to face those demons, to revisit those painful experiences.
It does, but it's often the only way to truly heal.
And for Paris, that healing began with sharing her story in her documentary.
Right.
It was a turning point, a moment of reckoning and liberation.
Yes.
She was finally taking control of her narrative and reclaiming her voice.
And writing her memoir took that healing to an even deeper level. Putting those experiences into words, reliving them in the process of writing, that's no easy feat.
Right.
It requires immense bravery and self-awareness.
She actually describes the process as the most therapeutic experience of her life.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't just about personal healing. She also wanted to use her platform to advocate for other survivors.
Yes.
And expose the systemic abuse that's rampant in the troubled teen industry.
That's where her story transcends the realm of celebrity gossip.
Right.
And becomes a call to action.
Right.
She's not just talking about change, she's fighting for it.
And she's making a real difference. She's already helped change laws in 9 states.
Wow.
And is pushing for federal legislation to protect children from the kind of trauma that she endured.
It's incredibly inspiring to see her take on such a powerful industry and refuse to back down.
And she's doing all of this while navigating motherhood, which adds another layer of complexity to her story. She talks about how she chose to keep her pregnancy private for as long as possible, shielding her son from the prying eyes of the public.
It's like she's finally claiming the right to privacy and control over her own life, something that was denied to her for so long.
Right. And it's fascinating to hear how her own experiences have shaped her approach to parenting.
She's determined to create that safe and nurturing environment that she never had.
So as we reflect on this part of our deep dive, what aspects of Paris's journey resonated with you the most?
Well, I think one of the most powerful takeaways for me is the importance of challenging our assumptions.
Yeah.
We often see celebrities through a very narrow lens,
Right.
Focusing on the glitz and glamour. But we forget that they're human beings with their own struggles and triumphs.
Right.
And Paris's story reminds us that everyone has a story to tell, and every story deserves to be heard with an open mind and an open heart.
It's a call for more empathy and understanding, for looking beyond the surface and recognizing the shared humanity that connects us all. And as we move into the final part of our deep dive, we're going to explore how Paris's definition of success has evolved over time.
We'll delve into her drive for ambition and her newfound focus on creating a legacy that goes beyond fame and fortune.
Stay with us as we continue to unpack the remarkable journey of Paris Hilton. So we've talked about Paris's journey through trauma, her resilience, her advocacy, but there's another layer to her story that I find really interesting. her relationship with success.
Yeah, it's a theme that runs throughout her memoir.
Yeah.
She achieved a level of fame and fortune that most people only dream of, but she still felt this drive, almost haunted by this need for financial security.
Yeah.
In her documentary, she even says that she didn't think she would be truly happy until she reached $1 billion.
That's a pretty startling statement, especially considering she already had so much. It makes you think about what success really means.
Right.
Not just for celebrities, but for all of us.
Right.
What are we striving for and why?
For Paris, it seems that money represented freedom and control. Things that were taken from her at such a young age. It's like she was trying to reclaim that sense of agency by building an empire of her own.
So it wasn't just about the money itself,
Oh,
but what it symbolized.
Exactly. But what's interesting is that her definition of success seems to have evolved.
Okay.
Now she talks about babies and billions, acknowledging that true happiness comes from both material security and deep, meaningful connections.
It's a reminder that our priorities can shift and change as we grow and evolve.
Absolutely.
What might have seemed essential at one point in our lives might pale in comparison to the things we value later on.
And that brings us to, I think, the most profound lesson we can glean from Paris's story. The power of letting go.
Letting go.
Think about it. Paris has had to let go of a lot of things. Anger, resentment, shame, even the need for validation from those who hurt her.
Yeah.
She talks about coming to terms with the fact that her parents might never fully understand the impact of sending her to those schools.
Right.
And she's had to accept that some apologies will never come.
That must have been incredibly difficult to let go of that expectation of justice,
Well,
of someone acknowledging the wrong that was done.
it's a profound act of forgiveness, not necessarily for the perpetrators, but for herself.
Right.
It's about releasing the burden of the past and choosing to move forward with grace and strength.
It's a powerful reminder that we can't control other people's actions, but we can control our own reactions.
Exactly. We can choose to forgive, to heal, and to create a brighter future for ourselves, regardless of what happened in the past. And sometimes letting go is the most courageous act of all.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the life of Paris Hilton, what's the one thought you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important takeaway is this. Behind every persona, behind every carefully constructed image, there's a human being with a story to tell.
It's true.
And that story is often far more complex and nuanced than we might imagine.
It's so easy to get caught up in the headlines, the gossip, the superficial aspects of someone's life. But Paris's story reminds us to look deeper, to recognize the shared humanity that connects us all.
The next time you encounter someone, whether it's a celebrity, a colleague, or even a stranger, remember that there's a whole world beneath the surface, a world of experiences, emotions, and hidden truths.
And if we all made a little more effort to understand each other's stories, to listen with open hearts and minds, imagine the kind of world we could create.
A world with more empathy, more compassion, and more understanding. It's a challenge, but it's one worth embracing.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this final question to ponder. What would happen if we all approached each other with a little more curiosity, a little more empathy, and a little more grace? Until next time, keep diving deep